Hello and welcome to the Killing Time with Arch podcast. My guest today is Mary Theodore, who goes by at Mary Noun, as in now with a W at the end, which we'll talk more about. Don't worry. In addition to creating a really uplifting account, she is also an amazing, talented, and very multifaceted individual. So join me as we explore some of those facets together when I talk to Mary in just a moment. Well, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello there. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Excited to be on the podcast. It's actually my first time being on somebody's podcast. I've been on live streams and such before on TikTok, which is my biggest platform currently, trying to build out YouTube as well. But excited to be here. People have been saying that I should have a podcast for a long time. So we're going to be starting mine here shortly. And you're actually going to be helping with that. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been fun just talking with you about that show and everything. I love when people get into podcasting, so I am very honored to be, the first show that you've come on. So thank you very much for doing that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and
And I hit
you,
the 100th
sorry, go ahead.
episode.
Yeah, that's true too. This is the 100th episode, so yes, this is a very special day for lots of reasons. So thank you. Um, you're coming to us, I believe, from Colorado, right? And I know maybe you're kind of a little bit nomadic right now. So I'm just curious, what are you doing out there, and where are you going next?
So right now we're in Durango, Colorado. It's been an interesting few years. I've been all over the place. Grew up in Michigan last year. Actually, 2022 isn't last year anymore. It's 2024. But in 2022, in December, I moved from Michigan out to Colorado. Stayed here because my dad lives here, so it makes it convenient. Then I moved down to Arizona, got back together with my girlfriend, who was actually my first girlfriend ever, and then we got engaged. We moved in together, and we got married in Vegas. Actually, before we got married in Vegas, we went out to Hawaii for a trip. So I've been to
Wow,
like 4, 5, 6 different states in the past year. So,
nice.
and then the eventual plan is to go to San Diego and hang out there for a little bit. I've got some friends who actually have, I think it's 34 acres, and they're trying to set up a little bit of a community style, living off grid, tiny houses thing. So they want me to be in the general area because it really kind of vibes with what I'm trying to do as a community and a mission, and seeing that be a physical place instead of just in cyberspace would be really cool. So
I love that. That's kind of the
thank
kind
you.
of yeah. And congratulations, by the way, on the wedding and all that. That's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Uh,
Yep. Got married in Vegas. Did the whole little. They gave us free champagne. It was cheap and
nice.
a little bit tacky, but fun and memorable. So we both had a lot of fun.
Well, I've been to one Vegas wedding and it was fun, and there was I always knew that there's lots of them out there, but I was blown away with how many different chapels there are that you can choose from. There's like
Oh,
one for everything. It seems like,
they call it the wedding capital of America for a reason, or
right?
even I guess it's the wedding capital of the world.
Oh yeah,
So
true.
I was impressed with how easy the paperwork was. I'm thinking, oh, getting married's got to be like a big deal, but no, it's like probably easier to get married than get a driver's license, which is interesting.
Yeah, as somebody who can also like legally marry people in the state of Ohio, but also legally divorce them, I gotta say, like it might be maybe we should make the marrying part slightly more difficult, the divorcing part slightly less. But yeah,
Right?
maybe not more difficult for the marrying part, but yeah, it's interesting just like how easy it is to do that. And I love that idea. Could you talk more about that? The place out west there that
I'll
you're
have to
guys are talking
send
about.
you. It's called. Well, there's a few different people doing different things, but it's called Cinnamon Rock Retreat. I'll have to send you a link so you can put it in the description down here when this is up on. We posted on YouTube uh after because we're live right now.
Yeah, we can definitely do that after. Yeah, for sure.
Um, but yeah, it's my friends Ariel and I am terrible with names. I remember faces a lot better, but I met them through TikTok actually, and one of them is writing had a near death experience. I also have had near death experiences, so I can kind of relate to the that kind of area. And she's written a book about it, and also is looking for somebody to do the audio book, which people have been telling me that, oh, your voice is so good, you should be a voice actor or do audiobooks. And so
Right.
that's one of the audiobooks that I'm thinking to help record, and that's really exciting. So really what I want to do with life when I'm looking at it is basically once you get past, okay, I need the ability to like cover my own bills, to have food and a place to stay and like sustain existence. But once you move past sustaining existence, just like then what do you do with your life? And I feel like a lot of people, all they do with their life is just sustain existence and entertain themselves. And that's a way
Mhm.
of doing it. And I'm not trying to like criticize anybody, but I feel like for me personally, once you get past just existing, it's got to be helping other people. And I want to just like meet as many different people and see, because it's making connections. I can see all the patterns and make all the this person needs this and you need that, and if we all help each other, we'll all go further than if everybody's just worried about, oh, I have to be, I have to protect what's mine. The world is big and scary. The world's not as big and scary. The media is big and scary.
Right.
The world's not actually. If you go out there and you go talk to random people. As somebody who's traveled, I've only ever been out of country to Canada, but I've traveled across. I've been East Coast, West Coast, North, South, all around. I've driven from Colorado to Michigan in 2 days by myself. It was fun.
Yeah.
And you talk to people. You go to gas stations and restaurants and hotels, and you meet just people. And every person has like we see the world from our subjective viewpoint. We're the main character of our life because we're us. But they have a whole story, a whole world, a whole life around them. And like if you can drop the social anxiety and the they're a stranger, yeah, but every stranger is a potential new best friend. And just
Absolutely.
listening to what they've been through in life and their different experiences. And most of them, not all of them, there are some that aren't, but most people are just nice, kind, happy people that want to live and let live and just enjoy life. So
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
traveling around and maybe even doing a podcast series or a series of videos where I just like, hey, I have a platform of people. The world has interesting stories. It doesn't have to be all about me. I want to like, if you have something cool to share, I want to get it out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that about just the going back to the community and stuff a little bit because I kind of started with my TikTok kind of videos because of like trying to build a little tiny house shack basically out in the woods. And
Nice.
it was a lot of fun and I loved doing that. And but I want to make a place kind of like what you're talking about too, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier the other day, I think. But like
Yeah.
this whole idea of building like a retreat center, but it's a nudist retreat center. So you come and you hang out. We build some little tiny houses so people can stay and for a few days or however long or whatever. But have maybe little workshops like how to infuse your food with cannabis or maple syrup making or bird watching or yoga, like whatever it is. So I
Exactly. There's so many little skills like that we don't like. School hardly teaches anything anymore.
It's true. Yeah. As a
It's like
teacher, I can agree with
sharing.
that. Sorry, I missed the last part.
No, you're good. I'm just thinking like all those little like cooking, for example. I am baffled by how many people the full extent of their culinary knowledge, and it's not necessarily their fault. Nobody ever taught them more than how to microwave stuff. And I'm like,
Right.
well, you don't know how ratios work and how to make a sauce and how to make like there's like some pretty interesting, simple fundamentals of cooking that if you understand, you can make something without needing a recipe. And I think just
Right.
as one example that having more and one thing YouTube and TikTok and platforms like that have really done well is put the people that have that, it made it the knowledge accessible to everybody.
Right. Absolutely. I remember taking cooking classes in high school, but they're very like few and far between these days, unfortunately. And that's the kind of stuff I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we need to bring back more of.
What
But
happened to home ec?
right, yeah, I took all the ones I could. It was a great class. You got to eat. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like so I was actually homeschooled, so my life experience is a little bit different in that. Growing up, I'm one just barely older than Google. I'm old enough to remember cassette tapes and dial-up, but young enough to be hip with Gen Z on the TikTok and the social media trends and all
Right.
the. I've got the Riz, as they say, but I still know what.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm sure you are right on the cusp for sure. I'm like, I'm a elder millennial, I guess is what they call us now. So, but building off of that, I liked you posted a video pretty recently, maybe a day ago or something about happiness and how it is a state of mind rather than like something you obtain or whatever. So I'm wondering maybe you could talk more about what that looks like for you because I love your
Yes.
channel and I love all your videos and they just make me feel better after I watch them.
Thank you. And a lot of people do say that, and that really means a lot to me. It's amazing. What really gives me the inspiration to keep going is how many amazing messages I get from people that say that. But really, it started. So I've been making video content for a while. I started off as a Minecraft Pocket Edition YouTuber way back in the day when like the gaming scene was big and stuff.
Right.
So I did that for a while, and then I kind of took a break, and then I saw that this new TikTok thing was up. And for a minute, I made some Vine videos and stuff, but I kind of got into just vlogging.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that many people. I had a few hundred. I thought, oh, that's cool or whatever. But I actually, okay, no, I'm going to take that back a little bit. My first ever TikTok video I uploaded, I was in a bit of a mental state. Like I was going through some shit at the time. And you couldn't really tell in the video. The video was only like 15 seconds long or something. But it got like 50K views. But
Wow.
I am not, shall we say, sane. So like I'm looking at all of this comment. I'm like, my brain didn't really know how to process that I was going viral.
Right.
Because I was in like, I don't know what you would call it. They diagnosed me with psychosis at one point. But anyway, so then I didn't do anything with it for a while. And then once I was a little bit more put together and I'd gotten some of my stuff taken care of, I got back to making videos on there. And I got up to a few hundred followers and whatever. Because the big video didn't really give me that many people followed it. A lot of people liked it. I think everything I said in that video was, we have enough resources on the planet for everyone. We just need to share. Only ask for what you need. Like, don't hoard. I need billions of dollars. No, you fucking don't.
Right.
But that really was kind of, I think part of the reason it went viral was very decisive. People were like, oh, you're a leftist, communist, horrible, person. Or actually, yes, John Lennon, imagine utopia. Like it was very divided. I got an interesting reaction. And being my first video, the algorithm didn't know really what to do with me. This was early days of TikTok too, several years ago before it's kind of more of an established platform now. Back then it was brand new. But anyway, so I did that for a little bit, and then I finally got over 1,000 followers. I'm like, I'm over 1,000. I can go live. This is pretty cool. And like 2 days later, I was talking to my dad, who, interestingly enough, now I'm staying with him out here. At the time, he was living out here. I was living in Michigan. And I'm like, after all this shit I've been through, like the aforementioned psychological stuff, I broke my arm at one point. So it's been, I would say, a crazy few years, but I could just keep extending that back to my whole life. So.
Right.
Anyways, I'm like, well, really happiness is about being present in the moment. It's really not, because I've been through all this stuff and we live in the past, we live in the future, but that's really not where happiness is. And after I got done talking on the phone to him, I'm like, I should make a little video about this. And so I go in my backyard. I'm like, I was recently asked, why are you so happy all the time? It's because somebody had asked that. I forget who it was at this point, but they're like, you always seem to be happy. And why? Like, even though life is crazy. I'm like, well, I mean, it's better to be happy than not happy. Why would I not be happy? I'm like, so I started recording that. And like, was recently asked, why are you so happy all the time? Because I've experienced my fair share of adversities and I have things I could complain about, but I don't because it doesn't help. What I've found helps with happiness is focusing on the now. And I basically explained what Eckhart Tolle goes over in his book, The Power of Now, which is the mind is what causes unhappiness by wishing for a state of being that isn't right here, right now. I'll be happy in the future when, or, oh, I can't be happy because this happened to me in the past. But if you're actually right here, right now, what's really wrong? You can be
Right.
happy just being. And when you realize that you're more than your mind, that running dialogue of thoughts in your head, your thoughts aren't you. You're
Right.
the conscious observer behind your thoughts, experiencing being alive. And when you can, it's the whole point of meditation. So basically, I made a little video on that, and I went, the secret to happiness with a question mark. And that blew up. I was like, 1,000 views, 200,000, 200,000. It's now got 8.5 million, and I still get views and comments on it to this day. It's pinned on my TikTok profile if anybody wants to go see the original video. But that's kind of how I really blew up. And then at the same time, I could also go live now. So I'm like, I can push a button and I have 500 people ready to watch me say anything live. Just like it kind of
Right.
blew my mind.
Yep.
The funny part is, growing up, if you had asked 10-year-old Mary what I wanted to be, I always would have said, well, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, do my own thing, and be famous. Like I'd go hang out with famous people and travel and just talk to people and do stuff. And
Sure.
now I'm famous and I get to hang out with people and talk and do stuff. And so it would be cool to have a little bit more money, honestly, but we're getting there. And other than that, I'm pretty much living my childhood dream. So that's really pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. And I have to follow up, of course, because I was in Bosnia one time, which I love travel like you do. And I have been able to go a lot of places because I've been a part of this organization, like the Sister City Committee here in Dayton. And Sarajevo is one of our sister cities because of the Dayton Peace Accords. So I'm over in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, "You've got to read this book; it'll change your life." And I was like, "Okay, sure, tell me about it." And he was like, and it was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I don't know a whole lot of people personally who like have read that, but the people who have, I always find that they're pretty cool people, and they do understand something that's different about the power of now, I guess.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering if you could talk more about that book and why you
Um,
like it and all that stuff.
so fun fact,
Mm.
I didn't know about the power of now until after I made that video. So I
Oh,
say all the things he says without having heard it from him. Because
that's
I
even
came to
cooler.
this own conclusion through my own life experience. And then I went and in the comments section of that video, people are like, "Oh, are you quoting Eckhart Tolle? Have you read Eckhart Tolle? Have you
Right.
read The Power of Now?" And etc. I'm like, "No, I haven't, but I probably should." It seems like all these people who are liking what I'm saying are liking this too. So I went and read. I'm like, bro just literally described what happened to me because he goes
Yep.
through I went through all the depression and the now for me, my enlightenment moment, if you want to call it that, actually happened in the hospital, going through some pretty significant surgeries, and a lot. I've got some videos from that too. I made that's one thing that helped keep me sane was drawing pictures and making videos while going through that. But
Yeah.
I won't go into the details, but Crohn's disease and some pretty significant health issues that were, life threatening at the time, going through some major surgical stuff. And life is a bit intense. Your whole
Sure.
life is on pause. You've got to figure out how to make money because you're in the hospital, you're racking up bills, and you got continuous physical pain. But like this one, I was sitting there thinking, I'm seeing the light coming through the window and like the little dust particles that float in it and it kind of sparkles. And just like I was drawing a picture, and I kind of sat up and I just looked, and all of a sudden, all of the noise, the thoughts, the stuff in your head was just kind of not there. I'm like, I just sat there for a bit, and it was just this kind of overwhelming sense of peace, and I didn't really know why, but it just kind of felt like everything was going to be okay. I don't know. So, and that was just one little moment that I remember vividly. I also almost, well, depending on where you want to draw the line for death, I either died or almost died, or they had to add like half my blood and stuff back during splenectomy surgery. So that was a pretty
Yeah.
interesting trip too. But
Oh, sure.
needless to say, I got intimately close to the other side, and that really gives you a lot of perspective. Because when you live through that, and now you're alive, you're like the problems that you face just don't seem big anymore.
Oh, sure.
It's like, oh no, how do you deal with all the hate comments online? It's like that's just a random human saying words. You
Right.
think, how does when you have learned another thing that's really important is self love, and when you realize how to love yourself and give yourself that validation when you don't need it externally, it just doesn't like it's great when people say nice things about you and you appreciate that.
Sure.
But when people say negative things about you, it's like, okay, and like my job here is to be me for me. I'm not trying to make you happy. So people
Right.
are like, oh, you're going against God or whatever. I'm like, that's really not my problem. That's you problem. So
Right. Exactly. It's just between me and them, if they exist. So,
exactly.
but yeah, I
Exactly.
love that book too, and it's funny because I actually read it. Like he was like, "I'll send it to you," but in Bosnia, like everything is bootlegged. It seems like so. He just sent me a PDF
Mhm.
of the book, and I read it, and I was like, "This is really cool." And then I like found out, like I've seen him on
Yeah.
TikTok recently too, right? Hasn't he
I
like started? It's new, I think, him being on. Have
don't
you
know.
seen
I'll
him?
have to check that out. I have not seen
I
it yet,
think it's
but
the official account, but I'm not positive. So, but
it could be.
I would love to pick his brain someday. But anyways, one of the things too, I guess I was wondering is, you're pretty open about a lot of stuff, obviously on your channel, which I love, and I was wondering, is there anything about you or your life that people might be surprised to learn that you don't talk about as much on your account, maybe?
That is a good question. I got this. It looks like the official. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I've seen a
But
lot of impersonators, I think, but one did look official. Like it was like
this
no
one
walk
does
around.
look official. Cool.
Okay.
Well, if you're watching this and want to go follow Eckhart Tolle on TikTok, I guess there is a page. I got my phone sitting here for dual.
Right. Yeah. Me too.
Um, anything about me? My life, like I said, has been a really interesting and probably significantly different than most people's standard living experience.
Sure.
Uh, so consequently, I have a lot of firsthand experience that I can draw from. People are like, oh, how did you get to be so wise? You're only 26. Well, I've lived a lot of like, I took the full life of hard knocks course and
Yeah.
really learned from that. But anything they wouldn't expect, I don't know. I've gone over a lot of what who I am and such. I guess, hmm, I have to think on that. Do you have anything?
Yeah. Yeah. We can come back to it. If one of us remembers. So.
Right?
Uh,
No, it's just where to start. There's so much to say, and that's one problem. Is there's so much in my brain and the limited bandwidth of like I understand how the universe works now. I have to turn it into words and explain it to people. And
right.
well,
I
that's a good jumping. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Jumping on point actually, I was born without the voice in my head. A lot of people have an internal monologue. I think it's more well recognized now that not everybody does, but yeah,
Mhm.
I couldn't sub vocalize. Like if I wanted to hear words, I had to say them out loud because my brain thinks in abstract concepts. And trying to explain that to somebody who thinks in words, like I would see television depicting, ooh, I'm reading your mind. I'm like, ha, that's so funny and lame. People don't have words in their head. Little did I know that a lot of people actually have words in their head. And through a lot of practice and time, I have actually developed the ability to sub vocalize, and I do now have the ability to say words in my head. But I can also think in this other way of thinking, which it's spatial, although I don't know that I would say it's necessarily Euclidean in nature, but it's like there's a big space of concepts and emotions, and like they have texture and shape and patterns. So like you can understand the pattern of how something works, but then to turn that into words and explain it through our language is very interesting. And it makes me wonder if I was like multilingual, because some languages have words for concepts. Another book I really like, to ADHD trail here, is Robert A. Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. Now, it is an old sci-fi novel. It's a product of its time. There's some interesting social aspects, but I don't think any of it's too terrible. But it has a really interesting take on like spirituality, and it kind of examines the human culture from a somewhat objective viewpoint through the eyes of the man from Mars who grew up in a totally different culture. And I
Right.
think it really, even though it's a fictional book, I think there's a lot of interesting concepts in there. He actually coined the term like to grok, which is to like understand something completely. To It might have a similar energy to like namaste. It's like I understand you and you understand me, and we recognize the collective sameness and divinity, that everything that there is all part of, there's no separate me and you, even though we're separate forms, we're all made of the same stuff.
Right.
And I don't know, I've just always found philosophy and concepts like that, psychology and the metaphysical experience, to be really fascinating. So
Yeah.
I also grew up pretty conservative religious in the Christian type area, which
Really?
I don't know, it never really totally, I wouldn't say that I like believed it as hard as some people do, because I've always been a critical thinker. Like I always want to know why and how, and like ask questions, and religious people love that.
Right.
No offense to anybody who is religious, but anyway, so I got that perspective, and then I kind of worked out of that and became, I was going through some different stuff emotionally and such, and I actually got turned on to YouTube atheism, and fell into that rabbit hole, and then turned into a hardcore materialist atheist. Like, there is the physical, deductible, scientifically recognizable world, and there's definitely nothing outside of that. And then I
Right.
realized that maybe I'd swung a little bit too far this way to too far that way, and I came back this way. And I've since had some pretty interesting experiences, which are just firsthand experiences. They're not scientifically provable or whatever. But I do believe that there's more than what we can just physically see, because I think to think that the physical, observable, in the visible light spectrum world is everything that exists. I mean, you can't see radio waves, but they exist. So
Right.
maybe you can't see consciousness waves, but they exist. So I've actually, through time, become a little bit more spiritual. Now, at this point, I would say I'm not really religious in any particular way, although there are some religions I resonate with more than others.
Sure.
But just kind of spiritual. And I have a theory of consciousness that I think kind of melds the metaphysical and the scientific idea with some of the, I'm also a huge nerd, so some of the leading quantum physics and science behind that, with quantum computers and like AI we see, is replicating some of the similar patterns of consciousness. So I'm thinking, what if conscious perception, like we have, is a property of the distortion of a field, like the gravitational field or the electromagnetic field? Is a fundamental substrate of reality that you can't see, but you can excite to generate like electrical current if you excite the electromagnetic field in a specific way. So what if the configuration of neurons in our brain, or the organization of matter in biological organisms, somehow creates a um, a tangible actualization in this field that then creates this phenomenon that we experience as consciousness? I would be interested in doing some more scientifically rigorous. And then there's also things like altered states of consciousness induced by different chemicals, some of which our own brain can make. And some people have very similar shared experiences of going to a different place and talking to beings and coming back. And I wonder if you could try and go to the same place multiple times and like have a code and like try and figure out if these are actual places,
Right.
or if they're like on another dimensional plane. So I think that the metaphysical field is fascinating. And I certainly don't claim to know everything, but I think that there's a lot of interesting areas to explore in there.
Well, yeah, you're turning me on to a lot of things I have no conception of yet, even. So that's pretty cool. I do, though, have some more experience with like Christianity, specifically like evangelical Christianity. So I It's
Mhm.
interesting that we kind of share that, which there's a lot of people on TikTok that I love to follow just because of the deconstruction they've had to do, but I wasn't as maybe able to kind of get myself out of that more until college. But I was going to be a youth minister at one point, and went to two different Christian colleges, and so I just it was kind of like, I was the first place I went to. I just, hated it because everybody agreed and I loved to argue. So I would get bored. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I know a lot of what you're saying there. And that's interesting that we had that in common because I think it's just such a bankrupt kind of version of Christianity, really.
Yeah,
So,
well, here's the funny thing. These people will be like, "Oh, you must if you're not a Christian, you must not have read the Bible." It's like, no, actually, I did. I
right.
did read that. Probably more than you have.
Right.
But
They
these
don't charge
people,
entry fees there. You can read it, however many times you want.
if you actually do read the Bible, Jesus, if you're a Christian, you're acting like Christ. He would not be a Republican. He would not be a capitalist. He would be hanging out with all the people you're condemning. And he tells you not to condemn people, to love people.
Right.
So, like, he would be a hippie communist from the Middle East. So, he definitely wouldn't be a straight white cis Republican male gun toting communist America person. So
Exactly.
I feel like Christian has a very different meaning in the current socio-economical zeitgeist of America than
Hmm.
it did to the people who are more contemporary to Jesus, if that was an actual person that existed and taught. Because I resonate with a lot of what he says, and it's very similar to a lot of stuff in Buddhism or in other Eastern philosophy. There's a lot of similarities in religion, but I think we tend to turn it into a dogma and make a business out of it. And now it's for profit, and you have power incentives, and power corrupts, and money corrupts. And they've done actual studies that find that if you have too much money, it messes with your brain chemistry to the point where it turns you into a psychopath.
Well, that makes total sense. So, all right, which
So,
comes first, though, the chicken or the egg? Are all these billionaires
right?
psychopaths?
I think some
Uh,
some of both.
yeah.
People who have less empathy tend to excel at business because it's incentivized on non-empathetic means. Like,
Hmm.
if your profit motive is to make more for you and minimize everybody else, then like you're gonna be naturally sociopaths. You're gonna do better.
Right. And like, I guess that's one of the reasons I love dudism so much is I don't have to proselytize anymore. I don't give a shit. Like, you believe whatever the fuck you want, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's probably my favorite part about it. But another thing we've talked about recently is just kind of, because we've had a conversation about some work that you're helping do for me for my book that's coming out. And, I'm getting to see, up close, just how amazing of a graphic designer you are, which I know you do a lot of things, but
Well, thank you.
yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I love the stuff and like I was amazed at how quickly you like would go from like one idea to the other. So it's yeah, I loved working or I do love working on that with you. But I'm wondering if you can talk maybe a little bit more about that kind of stuff you do,
Appreciate that.
maybe.
I've
Yeah,
always been an artsy type. I've been drawing since I could hold pens, pretty much.
nice,
Um, I'm not too good at doing human figures, but I can draw killer houses and spaceships and landscapes.
nice.
Um, so I started off just doing that, and then I got into digital artwork doing back when I started my YouTube channel, which was a Minecraft, which I'm thinking about maybe getting back in. It'd be interesting to just hear me talk about life with Minecraft gameplay in the foreground.
Oh
It has
yeah,
kind of a zen to it, even though it's digital. It's got that nature vibe. But I got into digital art to make logos and like banners and stuff for myself and my other Minecraft YouTuber friends who, back in the days of every YouTube video had the fancy 3D animated intro and all that stuff.
yeah.
So I
That's
got into it for that. And then once I ran that for a little while. And then I turned 18. And a friend of mine who actually my mom, who makes homemade skincare products and stuff, was selling her products at a local urban tea shop. It's like a tea and coffee health store combo.
okay.
And I had just turned 18. And so he's like, hey, do you want to come work for me? And I'm like, I suppose so. Interestingly enough, most jobs I've had have been just like people like, hey, do you want a job? I'm like, sure, why not?
Nice, nice.
So I started working there, and as a small business, you need to do a lot of stuff in house. So I did the graphics for them. I did their logo, business cards, got some experience building a website in there. And then because my boss actually also worked with the local city and Chamber of Commerce and that kind of stuff, I ended up doing work with the Cedar Springs. Cedar Springs is where I grew up in Michigan, small town area commerce and the city and doing stuff. So I've also got into theater and did some performances at the local theater. So I've been in the paper for being in theater. I've been in my graphics have taken up full pages in the paper for events and stuff. Nice. And I'm all pretty much self-taught, just talking to other people that do graphics and YouTube tutorials, hours and hours of YouTube tutorials, and just fucking around for fun. Just like, I want to make a pretty, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just look at this geometry and try this and shading, and I have a new technique I want to do. So it's just, and I with being neurospicy the way I am, I hyper focus on something. So I'll be like, okay, this for the last month, I've been just like fascinated by this specific subset of this little thing. So I learn everything I can about it. Right. So consequently, I have a lot of knowledge on a bunch of different stuff. So. Yeah. And graphic design is just a skill that can be applied to so many different things that throughout time I've done freelance work. I've had jobs sometimes. I've worked for startups sometimes. I've done just like freelance work. But I don't know. Making pretty things is a passion of mine, whether it be physically drawing it or doing it on a computer. And you mentioned just like how quickly it is. So I've watched the tools develop so much because when I started, we had computer tools, but they weren't nearly as advanced as they are now. And so now, especially with AI and stuff, you can do so many different, it simplifies. I have an idea for a vision that I want to make happen instead of having to go and literally do every single individual line and every basically pixel by pixel construct it with tools. You can use brushes and AI aspects to generate assets, and you can change like with multi-node rendering and stuff. You can, okay. It's going to be very difficult for me to explain the technical details of it without having a visual demonstration. But we'll just say that the tools have become a lot more powerful. So it's a lot easier to go from concept stage to a visual representation than it used to be. And that's really kind of cool. And that's something that you do have to, it's just like websites. If you wanted to build a website before, you'd have to, find a server to host it on and learn how to code HTML. And it's still helpful to learn how to do perspective, like hand sketching and perspective, and know all the fundamentals, how to code an HTML element if you need to. But we have Squarespace and Wix and so many different platforms that you just, I want it to look like this and look like that and use these colors, and here's my pictures and there's a website. So I think that is really the job of technology. And I agree with Steve Jobs' kind of view on this. The technology shouldn't be the focus. It should blend into the background and just enable us to do what we want to do more efficiently. So it should be a tool for the artist to actualize their vision instead of being focused on just interacting with the mechanics of the actual technology.
Right. Yeah. And that reminds me of I don't remember which artist it was, but I think maybe it was Pollock that tried to like get out of the way, or that was their thing, was trying to be out of the way of the
yes.
But then like I also I've been working recently with making some TikToks and stuff with a local artist here, and he's just a very like, his big thing is like brush before brain and like embracing kind of the chaotic process. And he's like internationally known, but he's like, he's just a really down to earth guy, and like, just go over and hang out in his studio and drink bourbon and like make some videos, and then he lets me paint. And it's just like
absolutely
that like I love. So anyways, I got off on a side tangent there. Sorry.
I vibe with that. So on that note, if you treat creativity like work, it's very counterproductive. Some of my best content that I've made, whether it's video content explaining something or whether it's artwork or a logo idea, some of my best stuff comes when I'm not really trying. I'm just kind of messing around, just being,
Right.
just messing around, just thinking about stuff. Sometimes maybe getting a little bit, that
Absolutely.
definitely affects the creativity for me.
Limbers up the mind, if you will, you know.
Exactly. So, has come, yeah, just by not necessarily being rigid. I think it's the difference between rigid things, more just kind of free flow. And that's when you get in that flow where you can really connect your subconscious and your conscious mind in
Right.
unison, that you really come up with some of the best ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
Had something I was trying to get at there. Artwork, yes. When I'm drawing, because I also do, and for logos and graphics, I usually prefer digital media. But
Mm.
for just drawing artistically for landscapes and stuff, I do pen art a lot or
All
colored pencils. And I have no idea what I'm going to draw when I start. It's really just me kind of letting things happen. It's a very Bob Ross kind of approach. Like, we have some
right.
mountains here and some birds there, and this little stream is going this way and that way. And there's no mistakes, just happy accidents. And oh well, I did this there. Well, I guess that's going to turn into a little old cabin because just
Right.
how it evolves naturally, and I think that's beautiful.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I'm now. I'm wondering, are your travels going to take you to Dayton, Ohio, at some point? Because like you would love
I
painting with this dude. So there's he works out of a studio though that's got actually it's called Front Street. And I actually did a podcast with their manager and stuff. But it's on my other show. I have a different show that's just all about dating. So that was on that show. But it's just a bunch of artists basically who rent out space in this old warehouse, and they have like monthly or even biweekly like art front or art shows, for people to come in and stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah, he's like this internationally recognized artist, and he like does so many textures. Like he was working with, I think he said like crushed almond shells or something at some point, and to add texture or sand or all kinds of stuff. But like he's got some beautiful pieces, so you would love painting with him, I'm sure. And I'm actually kind of thinking maybe I
that's
can
awesome.
put his kind of a background that he's done on top of, or put the image that you were working on top of a background he did. So it'd be pretty cool.
Definitely.
But yeah, we should talk more about that
We,
sometime.
we, art is something, and art has so many different. There's no wrong way to do art, and it really like fascinates me, just the potential for expressing creativity. But I
Right,
think my current fixation is lighting. Like sometimes just the way that that yellow hue will cascade through the window and illuminate some completely mundane scene of a kitchen, but the way that it looks, it's aesthetic. And I try to live my own life in a way that if I was a storybook character, my life would be an interesting story to read or a movie to watch. I
right.
do things sometimes like for the vibes. Just
Yeah,
if your life is a moving work of art and you're doing things in an aesthetic manner, and it's not necessarily that I'm putting on a performance for anybody, it's just to entertain myself. And I feel like that living intentionally instead of just being on autopilot. Oh, I have to get up, I have to go to work, I have to eat food, I have to watch sports, I have to go to bed. Like it's so easy to fall because that's what the system does. The system wants you to be a good little maze running factory rat and just follow the program and don't be conscious and don't be aware and don't self actualize. Just be a little worker drone. But I don't want to be that. I want to break out of that. And I want to inspire other people to do the same thing and eventually provide resources and like ability for them to do that. Because I realize that a lot of people, they would love to do more, but they feel stuck where they're at. So if we can build a
right,
community that can help people, not just financially, but emotionally, and in like give them that sense of community that I really feel like we've lost in society today. That the church used to be that, but now a lot of people, especially the younger generation, really don't vibe with religion, and religion and politics have gotten way too close, and it's all
right,
fucked. And I just feel like as communal creatures, like if you think back in the hunter-gatherer days or throughout human history, whatever time period you pick, that extended family, small community unit is really necessary for happiness and thriving at a human level. And I feel like we don't have enough of that. Our cities are too big and sprawly. In the suburbs, you have 1,000 neighbors and you don't know one of them.
Right.
So that's, I think, what people miss when they say the good old days, because tangibly life wasn't really that much better, but it had a different, people felt differently.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just kind of wrapping that. And that's why I've been thinking about starting a nonprofit or a church or an organization of some sort that is an actual structure to do things in the world. And the benefit of a church or religiously exempt organization or whatever you want to say is that it can do things like a business, own things, have property, set up things, and you can have multiple members, and that distributes. Because I don't want it to be all about me. I want it to be like a team of people, a community of people, and I think that would be a good vehicle to help people with.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly why I did it, and it's been an interesting journey even already. But yeah, the Gem City Circle of Dudists is our nonprofit, and you just need apparently 3 people who aren't related to each other to be able to start one, and then know what filings to do, which is not that hard either. So I'm now working on, after our conversation about kind of like exchanging services and stuff like that, I have been working on trying to just get it, up and running, I guess. So we'll see. Yeah. But I'm trying to like divide up what they do into like ministries, so if you want to help people with book publishing or t-shirt making or whatever, and then that's the ministry of blank.
So I'm really excited about actually doing the podcast too, and the long form nature of it, because I think my best content comes when I'm just like actively aware of what I'm thinking. I'll have a really cool idea and I need to then point the camera and talk about it, because if I just think about it for later, I don't script anything. I don't make a plan. I'm very impulsive and very much in the now. And so like, if you have a longer form video like this, it gives you the idea to bounce back and forth ideas, and then we can like clip sections out and use that as short form. So I think that's pretty cool. And what's interesting, like you were saying, is you've already got experience doing this thing that I want to do, and I've got experience with graphic design, which you need help with for your thing. And so if we have this community, this organization, a lot of stuff we can accomplish without even needing a lot of money, because you can just, I need this, you need that, we can help each other. And that's so cool. Right. I've met so many people like that, where it's a mutually beneficial. Another thing that I'm working on right now is actually, when I was still living in Arizona, we needed our carpet cleaned. And so the people that came over, they're doing that. They're like, hey, I hear you're an influencer, because the apartment manager there had told them, she knows me, was actually, it's funny when your apartment manager was following you before you moved there.
That would be, for sure.
The amount of places I've been recognized is pretty interesting. For as, I know I'm a side tangent, for as small as I feel like, I mean, 250,000 people is a lot of people, but there's like 300 million in the country. But small towns in random places, people, oh, I know you. I'm like, okay. So at this point, I'm pretty much just assume that most people generally know who I am, and I just live my life in a way that if I was on camera, I would be like, so what you see on camera is authentically me. It's not everything. There's some things you don't see, but it's just like my life is my content. But circling back to what I was saying about helping each other, carpet cleaners. And I said, yeah, I'm an influencer. They have a natural carpet cleaning solution that really kind of vibes with my going back to nature and being like healthy and self-conscious and health conscious and such. So I'm helping them build their website and do their logo and stuff, and just like being, if you're just open to opportunity, it kind of shows up all over. And if you have the mindset of I'm going to help people and they're going to help me and we're all going to help each other, that's really what we need.
No, absolutely. It was funny because like after we had talked about that, I kind of made it my mission, because that was really the only thing I could really not see me being able to do like at the level or quality that I would be happy with publishing, is like the artwork. I just, it wouldn't be nearly as good. So I just, decided I'm going to try to get it all published for no money and see what services I can exchange or donations I can get to whatever. And And that kind of like has, opened up doors, and meeting like my next door neighbor is like interested in trying to use my basement to make some artwork and or some woodworking kind of projects. So that'll be really cool if that actually happens. But just being open to opportunities, I think, makes it more likely that you'll get some. So yeah, I would definitely agree.
Absolutely. That's how manifestation works. People, it's not like you're not imagining things into existence. You're just vibrating at the same level to attract what you want in your life. So if you're putting out the kind of positive vibes that you want to attract in, that's what you're gonna get.
Right, absolutely.
It's,
Well,
it's the same
speaking
effect as when you're around happy people, you feel happy.
right, exactly. It's crazy how that works. So, you're also one thing you do outside of TikTok is, I think, what they call spicy accountants, maybe sometimes
I
on
do,
the TikTok
yes.
channel. So yeah, I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit, and maybe do you have advice to others who are interested in kind of getting into
That
that
is actually
work?
a fascinating topic. I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I'll be right
Oh
back.
yeah, absolutely, please. For those who don't know, of course, the spicy accountant reference on TikTok. We're talking like OnlyFans. So maybe who knows out there who's interested in getting into that. So just wanted an opportunity to talk about that. So I've never used the live function while doing this yet. So if you guys have anything you want to ask, then please feel free to shoot me a message. I do have my phone, so you can reach me through TikTok. But yeah, so I did also get this sweet mug on for Christmas. So a nice little Seinfeld homage. These pretzels are making me thirsty. And let's see, what else? Let's see. Oh, so the book that I'm working on, just real quick, working title is. Oh, sorry, I was trying to say what the working title of my book was. I'm not sure if I can get it right or not, but I think I've settled on one dude's guide to being bipolar, or just the dude's guide to being bipolar. That's part of the one I forget. But then the subtitle would be like how to stay the hell out of Malibu, and then go out and achieve anyways, and always abide, kind of thing. So yeah, it kind of, I feel like, goes along with what you're talking about earlier there. But
Absolutely. So yes, spicy content. That
right,
is interesting. It's something I guess I hadn't really thought about it much before, like earlier on in my life. But my people, okay, gonna back up and say, when you say you do spicy content, people usually have some kind of reaction. They're like, "Oh my god, you're like degrading yourself," or "Oh my god, does your wife know?" And I'm like, "Okay, first off, she's actually the one that suggested I started doing it, and secondly, it certainly doesn't have to be a degrading experience. In fact, I've personally found it to be quite the opposite. It's been a very empowering experience as somebody who is has had body dysmorphia issues and like self-image issues for the majority of my life, with health issues and not being able to gain weight and stuff. You always like felt skinny and such. And then also being trans, I'm trans non-binary, and we could go more into that maybe later on too, but that causes some level of gender dysphoria as well. So looking in the mirror and actually liking what you see and genuinely feeling good about yourself is a relatively new thing for me, and also has been really cool. And the fact that other people like see me and value that enough to compensate me financially. And I'll
right,
also say, I think it very much depends on the audience that you cater to as well. You got to be careful in selecting your demographics on any platform, but on those platforms specifically. And the kind of people that I've attracted are they're very nice, very respectful. They're very like genuinely nice people who really appreciate what I'm providing to them, and then I really appreciate what they're doing for me. So it's a mutual exchange, and I think that it
Right.
actually needs to be kind of destigmatized. And that's not to say that it's for everybody. Some people are just not going to be comfortable with that. And I'll say, can you make good money doing it? Yes. Does everybody? No. But it really shouldn't be about the money. It should be if you feel good about yourself when you're doing it, then I think that it would be a good thing to do. But if it's something that you feel, and I'm also going to make another subtle distinction. It was a little bit awkward starting, but it was awkward starting making other videos. Anytime you start doing something new that you don't have experience with, you're not going to be that good at it because you're brand new, and you're going to feel kind of awkward doing it. So I started easy and just kind of worked up from started with just like photos, and you get more confident in what kind of photos you do, and you just kind of experiment with things and what makes you comfortable and what doesn't. And I really like doing nature scenes,
Oh yeah.
especially out here when it's nice out. Right now it's kind of cold to be doing such things here in Colorado, but when it's warmer, there are some amazing mountain views, and some of my personal favorite shots that I've actually thought about maybe even getting framed and putting in a place when I have a more permanent setup going on. Were just with the sunset and the mountains, and then my silhouette with it. Maybe we probably can't throw them up on here because they wouldn't like that. But
You never
it's
know.
artistic. It's not just about the erotic nature of it, although that's not negative either. That I think is a beautiful aspect of being a human that a lot of people have been made to feel shameful about having that feeling, especially by religion. And I think that like hiding it, not talking about it, feeling bad about it is a good way to hurt people more than just like being open, talking about it, and like sharing your experience and being like authentic to yourself.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I should reveal there's going to be some maybe surprising, probably not that surprising things in the book, but like one is just that I have done like the virtual boyfriend kind of thing, and I I think it's I'm providing a service, right? At the end of the day, and I think that that's worth something, and something that we should just stop worrying about the stigma. I feel like, although, but then being a teacher, I always worry like, what's going to happen if, especially when you read horror stories of two teachers in one school getting fired, kind of thing. So it's just a very taboo subject, and I feel like America is just super prudish.
we're so prudish compared to like I have friends that live in other countries, and a lot of them are way more open about sexuality, and just like
Oh yeah.
nudity is not the taboo that it is the way in this country, and like the stigma around sex is not the same. And I'm kind of baffled by, I shouldn't say baffled, but I'm fascinated by seeing other people's perspectives, and I think that that's one of the benefits of what I've experienced in like having a platform, and a lot of people that I've met and friends from Australia and Dublin and the UK and all over South America and Eastern Europe and all sorts of different places. Even some people who live in Gaza, which is really pretty intense when you see people that that are in that whole situation gets really emotional. So you kind of have to learn how to be balanced about it, but just seeing all the different perspectives is really fascinating. So I think just like anything, you got to talk about it, and to destigmatize stuff, you got to be open and honest and not judgmental. Be like,
Right.
hey, this is where I'm coming from. This has been my experience. This is what I think. I realize you're probably going to think something different, and I don't have to necessarily agree with that to want to hear it and understand it, because I think the more that we collaborate like that, the more the positive ideas are going to spread. And it's just
Yeah, absolutely.
like setting aside that, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, and this us versus them. There's so much high intensity emotion involved. Like, chill. That's one thing I do like about like the Dudist vibe, or that kind of just a lot of hippie kind of energy, where it's like just live and let live. It's just like chill.
Right. Absolutely. No,
I really want to embody that.
yeah. Well, when you started talking about people in other places, remind me of the travel conversation we had earlier, and I we should I had kind of a high mania thought, which is that we should look at maybe trying to put a tour together someplace because I've been trying to do one specifically for Bosnia and Herzegovina and love it there and have a lot of friends there and connections and stuff. So maybe
Okay, yeah.
like a field trip or something someday. So, but didn't know if you'd be interested in that or not. But maybe we can talk.
Travel is one thing I want to do. We've actually, my wife and I, who people are always like, oh, they want to see her too. And I mean, I don't blame them, but she's a little bit more shy on the being out there. She
Right.
doesn't mind me being famous, but doesn't necessarily want to walk around and be recognized. Like, yeah, well, I get that.
No,
But
yeah,
she and I have been talking about maybe getting a camper or a van or some kind of vehicle that's like pretty easy to travel with and you can sleep in. Just because that makes it a lot easier than having to have hotel rooms everywhere. And if you get a
right.
gym membership, then you got a shower, and
Yeah,
so that you can hang out in the city for a month, and then if you want to go see something else, you go see something else, and that would be good for like domestic. But I do also want to go. People always ask me, "Oh, are you from the UK? Your accent is so refined." I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not actually. I'm from the America part." What? My favorite question: what part of the UK are you from? And I'm like, "Well, darling, I'm from the America part of the UK. I came over here a good time ago, you see."
right.
But I would love to actually go over there, and I think it'd be fun. I do have several friends from the UK that I would, and that's one benefit of having people is you can go to a new place and not be totally out of your depths if you have somebody to show you around and like explain
Right.
the vibe of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's I
So
forgot. Sorry,
sorry,
travel. No, go ahead.
travel is definitely in the plan for the next few years.
Nice, very nice. Well, I forgot. I also have a camper, so I forgot about that. But maybe another reason to come to Dayton. Who knows? I saw
Right.
though that you had a clip about the voice acting and animation stuff, and I'm just asking, for your fans. I feel like when can we expect the comic strip to come out? So, what are you planning?
Oh, so my problem is I have way too many ideas and not enough time and energy for execution. So I have to prioritize things. And unfortunately, that is not right now at the top of the list is just making reading videos will be coming out consistently going forward from now. I just started, I think I put the first one out yesterday. But I want to make that a primary series as far as using my voice productively, since a lot of people do find it fascinating. And books like The Power of Now, I think, would be a great thing to read.
Oh
We
yeah,
also have Winnie the Pooh, and some other people wanted to hear me read Harry Potter. I think it's kind of funny because now art versus the artist is a whole conversation. I don't resonate with J.K. Rowling, but I didn't spend any money for this book. I borrowed it from the library, and if I can make money using my voice, her work is indirectly supporting a trans person. So
nice.
I think that's
Love
kind of
that.
fun.
Yeah, that is great. Well,
Um,
how
and
will
that's
people?
the kind of
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said that's the kind of thing I like to. I'm really not big about we're gonna defeat the enemy. I'm like no, but if I can like subtly, if I can enact karma but in a positive way, that makes me happy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, you do all the time, so I love your videos. I'm excited too because we've been talking and stuff about your podcast that you're putting together. So I'm just curious. Maybe
Yes.
you can give me a preview or give us a preview of what that'll look like. Maybe.
So the book reading and the podcast are kind of my big focuses right now, along with just creating more regular TikTok content. Because I recently, for some of last year, I was working at a grocery store. Well, I was working at Starbucks inside a grocery store, and while that was an interesting experience, I definitely learned stuff, and I can now say that I'm a certified barista for anybody that cares.
Nice.
The corporate environment and having the higher ups or corporate says this, corporate says that. Like the people you're working with directly are nice people that want to do good, but
Right.
the system is so fucked, it's unbelievable. So I'm currently going back to being a full-time influencer, which means the money is less consistent, but I get to spend time doing what I feel like I'm making a positive impact on the world
Oh yeah.
instead of just stocking shelves or making people's coffee is great. But I mean, as far as impact in the world, doing this has a lot more.
Right.
So the podcast is going to be kind of like a hub. And also I want to use that to promote my Patreon, which I do have. I haven't really promoted that up until this point, but just getting myself stable and then doing the podcast full time is my current main priority. And what I want to do with that is just kind of like what you're doing is interview cool people. I have a lot of people, probably 3 or 4 that I can think of right now that I want to interview, and just I'm thinking to start
Yeah.
weekly, maybe go up from there as it goes, depending on the like my ability, how much overhead it is to produce a podcast and get it out there, and then also Wi-Fi limitations and whatever. But
Yeah.
just interview cool people that have similar thoughts or different opinions, or just put their voice out there, and
Right.
also it gives me the opportunity in a longer form to kind of talk about my own life experiences and what I've been through physically and spiritually, and my thoughts on stuff. So just, yeah, that's kind of, I don't know exactly what the vibe of it is, but I wanted to, I'll go over the name ideas here for a second. And sorry, I'm kind of rambly. I might
No, that's great. This is
have
perfect.
over-caffeinated, but
No.
I was thinking, because I don't really want, it's tempting to be, it's the Mary show, but I don't really want it to be all about me. So I thought
Right.
about maybe noun time, or kind of like it's downtime, it's chill, but it's noun time, or coffee thoughts, because a big part of my identity and branding has been, I'm out on my delightful walk, or out on my daily walk, got my delightful cup of coffee. And
Right.
as being a barista, coffee is a passion of mine. So coffee thoughts, thinking, coffee chill, also an idea.
Which I love.
And the
Coffee and your
other
walks.
one, oh, so,
Oh, and I said just which I love your coffee and your walks. Sorry, go ahead.
and the other idea I had was 6 degrees, like the 6 degrees of separation. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and through
Right.
6 degrees, which actually it's probably less than 6 degrees now with the internet connectivity and such, maybe
For sure.
5, but you know everybody in the world. And I was thinking that 6 degrees would be a short, easy thing, and it kind of represents what I want to do with connecting people with a similar vision to enhance all of our potential to do good. So
Right.
those are my current thoughts. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what it'll, and I might end up making a video and just having people vote to see what
No.
people like best.
Well, I love that idea. It sounds like a podcast network, really, and I think it'd be cool to have like a TikTok creator podcast co-op network.
Absolutely.
Maybe we need to, because Dayton is interesting. It actually has like a co-op company here that like helps, or not company, but it's a nonprofit, but it helps people start co-ops. So it's kind of cool. We have like a co-op grocery and all this stuff. So there's a lot, and a brewery actually. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'll have to talk more about it. But I was, just wondering, maybe as we're wrapping up, how can people find all of your stuff that you've talked about? Where's the easiest way to find?
So my link tree is kind of the central finding stuff place right now. I'm on a lot of platforms. TikTok is my biggest one. YouTube is the one I've been on for the longest, and then I've got Twitter, which I guess is now called X.
Right, formerly known as Twitter.
Right. Snapchat, WhatsApp, all kinds of different things. But they can find all of that at the link tree. So it's linktr/tr.ee/Mary Doctor. And I can send you a link to put in the description here too.
Yeah.
For the video. But you can find pretty much everything there, the spicy content, the other content. You can find ways of supporting the Patreon, all that stuff. But yeah, I also do want to relaunch. People have been looking for merch again. I launched that at one point, although it kind of, I'm not going to try and fulfill it myself this time. That was a lot of overhead, but I want to maybe partner with somebody who makes it, because so many of the print on demand and drop shipping options are just like tacky. But
Right.
that's another thing that I'm looking at starting in the near future. So You can find me on. I'm most active probably on TikTok right now. I just started a clapper, and that's going pretty well too. It's similar to TikTok, but a little bit less restricted in certain ways.
Okay.
And I'm thinking
I've heard
about doing
to get out on
my
that.
live streams on that platform because I'm currently banned on all of my TikTok accounts until I get another one over 1,000 again, because they
Oh,
really like to ban my live streams on there. I have a tendency of talking about apparently controversial things like being trans and
right.
not hating people or something. I don't know.
That's
Like
crazy.
one time they did ban me because I was talking about the spicy content, but
Well, that's, I guess, maybe one of the nicer things about YouTube and stuff is they don't seem to care nearly at all as much. So,
that is nice. Yes.
but
TikTok is. I have a love-hate relationship with TikTok. The platform. The community is awesome. So if I can just kind of nurture and grow that community, and eventually get it to the point where it's not just on TikTok, it's cross platform, and ideally even physically have a place or several places, start a noun retreat type model where we have a place where people can go and just hang out with like-minded individuals and talk about making the world a better place.
that sounds amazing. That sounds exactly like the Nudist Retreat Center. So,
Exactly. So, and there's so many times that people like this where you have conversations like we're on this podcast because I would just scroll in TikTok, go, oh yeah, because we've known each other for a while now, but we've just
right.
been kind of in the periphery of each other's existence or whatever. I popped in on the live and I'm like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
But so many things like that just happen to have interacted with. The more people you meet, the more opportunities you have, and I think there's a lot more like-minded people than people realize out there.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can all work together, I think we can make some really cool shit happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, before I let you go, I always like to ask people, and I've been forgetting recently because I haven't done the podcast in so long, and I just recently got it going again, but which is cool. But
Yeah.
book or do you have any book or podcast or TV or movie recommendations you've seen recently, or just that you love that you'd like to give?
That is book recommendations. I would say anything by Alan Watts, anything by Eckhart Tolle. If you want to deal with people better, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He's an FBI hostage negotiator.
Okay.
Great for not only business negotiations, but just kind of understanding how to interact with people. That's pretty good. And like I said earlier, Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange World is a fascinating fictional book to read. That'd be a few off the top of my head as far as book recommendations. For a podcast, I find Lex Friedman to be pretty interesting. I've been listening to several of his. He was interviewing somebody on AI that I was listening to. And then obviously your podcast looks pretty cool too. So people should check out other episodes of that as well. And it's been a pleasure. 100th podcast episode guest, and this is my first time being on a podcast, so pretty soon we'll have my podcast going too. So
yeah, I can't wait for that. I think it's going to be really cool. I always just get excited when anybody gets into podcasting because it's kind of just a hobby I've enjoyed for a long time, and so yeah, I think it'll be really cool. I can't wait to listen to yours. So, but
absolutely.
Yeah, so thanks you so much. I didn't know if there's anything else you wanted to give a shout out about before I end the show.
I think we've gone over a lot of stuff. That's most of the stuff. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, like I said, all the contact info for that is in my link tree. And yeah, it's very exciting. It's been an invigorating discussion, and I look forward to having more of this kind of just chit and chat about stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Well, all right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it, and I'm be keeping in touch about the other projects that we've got going on too. So thank you again for working.
Sounds good. Really I'll have to read your book when it comes out.
Yeah, hopefully pretty soon. So in the editing stages now. So which I'll do some pre-orders coming up soon. So that'll be good. Hopefully be a way to get people to let me know they want to read it at least. So I have an idea of how many I might be able to sell, but who knows? Probably it'll, as like most of the projects I do on here, it'll be nothing though. So we'll see. But
You
anyways,
gotta go with the flow of things.
yeah. So I mean, honestly, though, I just wrote it because I wish it's all stuff I wish people had told me, when I first got diagnosed with bipolar. So I'm hoping, even if it only helps one person, then that's done its job. So, but
Exactly. That's I find that to be a very using your own experiences to help other people to be a very good thing to do.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks again, and see you next time.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. We'll see it. We'll see you around. Maybe I'll have you on my podcast next time. So
Yeah, I can't wait. That'll be awesome. Would love to for sure. So, all right. See ya. All right. That was my interview with Mary Theadoor, and it was great talking with her. As she said, I will have the link to her link tree in the show notes and everything. But you can also find her on TikTok at Mary Noun, and that's Nown, and that's where you can find the link tree to check out all the other stuff that she's got going on. So it was great talking with her, and if you are interested in just getting on the news list for updates about the book, then go to gemcitydudistpriest.com. You can't miss the information about it there. And if you want to find me on TikTok, I'm at gemcitydudistpriest as well. That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening, and take her easy, dudes.